for your own campaigns, and you still didn't. Like, I'll never. It's just I go replay that in my head over and over, and I'm like, am I being too harsh? Like, am I crazy? No, it is weird. I'm sorry, it's weird. If you want to be a progressive in the Progressive Caucus and sit on the moral high ground, then I think the bare minimum is, hey, like, after someone is a convicted someone is a convicted if she had not done the whole after 2008, and I told you this, like, she was the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority General Counsel, meaning the first crime is from 2000 to 2020, he was basically giving $300 million in tax incentives in the Virgin Islands. And she was the general counsel. That is the head lawyer who decides, hey, is this weird? Like, should we give these tax breaks to a guy who is, they call his Little St. James, and he owned another island too. They call it 3PDO Island. Should we keep giving him tax breaks? And she just kept that money flowing on through him. The whole $300 million, she's not responsible for. I just want to be clear. I think there was like a 4 or 5 year period where she was general counsel, and those tax break there was a portion of the $300 million that was going through. Then goes to work at a law firm where Erica Keller-Hulls, that was Epstein's personal attorney, of which there are many emails. She's a partner in a huge law firm. And then I'm not saying, listen, you can work at the same law firm. It just happens that Erica Keller-Hulls is a partner there. She shows up there for 2 years. Then in 2014, starts taking money for Jeffrey Epstein for her first run at Congress and wins. I'm just pointing out things that happen. Again, none of this is a crime. It's just weird. And I will never look, I want to cover it up. I want to be Hakeem Jeffries and just be like, this didn't happen. It's not a big deal, but I do think it's a big deal. And I'm saying this for a reason. The reason I'm saying this is because, so Jamie Raskin, who could sit on the Supreme Court one day, did an interview this morning. And I thought, like, thank you for clarifying. Because the only thing I think I want to clarify and say, okay, I was a little bit confused about how Congress works. I've always been very confused because, especially since Trump era, like, the Republicans have spent a lot of time in control. So I've never understood, like, does someone get censured? Is there a vote to censure someone and then they get investigated by the ethics committee? Or do they can you just recommend someone be investigated? Because that's what I think needs to happen with the whole Plaskett situation. I don't think censure or whatever, I was not sure what the order was. All I'm saying is, this isn't a crime, but can someone just make sure and look into it? Because there's a large lawsuit filed by 6 Epstein survivors. And yeah, there was absolutely he was bribing every official in the Virgin Islands. And by bribe, I mean funding their political campaigns. And then some other things on the side for other people as well. But just because of that, and because of the lawsuit I read, of which she's probably the most minor part, right? But still there, I think let's just ethically investigate it. The only way Matt Gaetz is not still child trafficker, creeper, Matt Gaetz, whose child victim finally had the courage to speak to the New York Times last week, and never would have. If you don't know, Matt Gaetz' father is super rich, super powerful. The FBI declined to investigate. I have no doubt, because apparently people in Congress, you've heard Republicans like to bring it up. There's even a slush fund to pay off lawsuits in Congress when people feel like they were assaulted by a Congress member. There's a large pot of our taxpayer dollars that pays off people who get, diddled by Congress people. It's insane. The only way Matt Gaetz has ever been held accountable, the reason he had to leave Congress is because that ethics report was coming out. which it's 25 pages, another great read, which one day will probably be a movie. And now, hold on, puzzle piece. And now his child victim, who literally said, I just want some braces. He trafficked a child who wanted braces, and he gave her $400 while voting against the ACA and including dental in it. Like, you can't write these things about these people. And the only way we know that is because of the bravery. Well, the Democrats on the ethics committee, if you remember, there was this huge fight right before Trump took office about whether or not to release it. That is why Matt Gaetz left Congress. And now we have this other guy. Oh my God, please remind me of the guy I was it's Corey Mills. Is it Corey Mills, or is that a guy I went to high school with? What is the guy from Florida I was screaming about last week? It's Corey Mills. Okay. I was like, I also know another Corey Mills, so I was like, let's not disparage a guy I went to high school with. Okay, yes. Representative Corey Mills from Florida is the new Matt Gaetz. He is putting women in danger. There are police reports that are being covered up. That huge DOJ lawsuit I was just talking about, not the one being brought by Maureen Comey, but the one I was like, thank God, because Ed Martin's included in it. Before Lindsay Halligan illegally was appointed to like just be a lawyer she shouldn't be, Ed Martin was interim head of the DC office, which nobody was going to. The Senate was like, no, Tom Tillis is like, okay, this man's a schmatzy white national, like self-proclaimed like neo-schmatzy / white nationalist who has done and said unspeakable things. The reason we can't go through the DC like police system, the police took the original police report and sent it to Ed Martin when he was in charge and was like, hey, like this guy almost, beat a 27-year-old child, which to me, I just feel like when I was in my 20s, I thought I was an adult, but looking back, I was not. So to me, it's just Corey Mills has a wife who's not this person. And this woman, thankfully, is still with us, but was injured pretty badly. And then, as a result of him doing whatever horrific he did to that woman, and that the police department were like, indict him, and creepy Ed Martin's like, no. So that's part of the lawsuit and the investigation, because he's a weirdo. And so then this ethics report might be our only chance. And the other thing that comes out is because of the first woman who could have no longer been with us, but still is, thankfully, his other mistress, who's like, I don't know, like in some like seed league pageant circuit, she's like Miss USA something, like, but not like the normal pageants. Like, I was like, I'm sorry, what? But I don't know, she's some pageant person who sees all this and is like, I thought I was your only mistress. And then he starts making threats against her and threatens her with revenge porn, like, and insane other things. Then apparently he accepted campaign contributions in kind, which, if you understand, bribes, illegal campaign contributions. And I don't want to say the worst, because what he did to these women is probably the worst, but actually I advise everyone to look up the story of Corey Mills and the Bronze Star. This man, because I didn't understand it's like an application process you apply for. He made up a complete fake story, and it's insane because he names like 4 people who are all alive and like he saved their lives. And then like journalists go to them and are like, oh, like this is so dramatic, like let me talk to you about Representative Corey Mills saving your life. And they are like, who? What? None of this is true. Like, this man needs to be investigated. And that's why I was so mad about, what Stacey Plaskett did is super icky, but the way she was never censured is because the agreement was drop the vote, or 3 Republicans join with Democrats to make this go away, to table the censure vote on Stacey Plaskett, and we'll leave Corey Mills alone. Which, okay, we're going to just have this guy floating around, and might not survive the next time he goes on a bender. I don't think that's appropriate. Like, this is our problem. This was our problem with Epstein. But again, that's why I'm so glad I got to, this is one of the things I was late, because I saw Jamie Raskin, thank God, our genius constitutional lawyer, did an interview this morning, and it really helped me understand like a couple things, and I feel a lot better about, I don't know if a lot better is the word. I don't feel a lot better, but wait, hold on. I want to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I just don't know where the beginning thing is. Okay. I'm just going to start playing it because I don't have my cover page I normally have. So this interview just happened, and this woman, it starts kind of immediately, I don't know, just the way Aaron Rupar clipped it. So she's talking to him okay, so you don't think it's, basically what I was just talking to you guys about. This woman's, after he's already a convicted child trafficker, hitting him up and asking him for money over there. You don't think that's weird? And I actually love, because when Hakeem Jeffries talks, he's just no, shut up. What you see in all the research you've done, just shut up and forget about it. It's the same way he is about the Palestinian genocide. I can't stand that. But I feel like Raskin explained things and the rules of Congress in a way I was okay.
But are Democrats losing the moral high ground on the Epstein issue by defending her as you have?
Well, look, we've been demanding a complete release of the file, and now they wanted to discipline her, censure her, because she'd engaged in that text exchange with a convicted criminal. Of course, our Republican colleagues engage in text exchanges all the time with Donald Trump, who has 34 felony criminal offenses to his name. So I don't know exactly what she's being charged with there. My point was simply she had not violated the Constitution, she had not violated federal law, and she had not violated, to my knowledge, any rule of the House of Representatives.
But are Democrats losing the moral...
I agree with everything he said. That's true. I just was never clear on, and have never been, because the Republicans don't do anything properly. How do you get an ethics investigation started? Do you censure someone and then there's an ethics investigation? Or is the censure the punishment after? That's what I never got. And you can be, I just want to be clear, you can be censured and nothing happens. It can just be a rebuke that was voted on that goes on the record. Or you can be, I think in the case of Stacey Plaskett, it's not like she was going to be put in jail or taken out of Congress. She was going to be off the Intel committee, I think, which that is a big deal. So I actually agree with what Jamie Raskin said and what he's going to say now, which is she never had a trial, because that's what I was never clear about. The only thing I really ever have wanted is, hey, ethically, there's a lot of gray area in the campaign finance. If you read the Business Insider article I showed you, the same passion I have when I read that Eric Adams indictment about the possible straw man thing, that $30,000 donation that she showed up to Epstein's townhouse in September 2018 to collect for her DCCC $250K fundraising goal, that, when you read the email exchange and how that check came, it's Crew, who's one of my favorite, I always talk about it, Norm Eason started Crew. Noah Bookbinder works there. They're the people that used the FOIA requests to figure out that Pam Bondi had taken that quote unquote bribe campaign contribution in kind. That's an example of one, to drop the state. She was the AG of Florida, and a bunch of states were joining in on the Trump University scam civil lawsuit, and he dropped a check to her and showed up. It was Cruz. It's Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington or something like that. I love them. Norm Eason is the guy that Trump took his security clearance away because he hates him so much for constantly exposing him. So in that Business Insider article, there's a a Crew employee, a lawyer that works for Crew, looking at all this financial information that the journalist had comprised and the donation she had solicited. And he's like, listen, this is not enough for me to know either way. But as Crew's goal is to like make sure people are behaving ethically in Washington, this could, to me, I would look into this more to ensure this isn't a straw donor situation. Because in the emails, Jeffrey Epstein's like, what's the max? And then like, okay, like, here's some people that work for me that, it's like he lists 4 people that are not, and we could all donate, That's exactly what was happening with Eric Adams. I'm not saying it happened, but why don't we do an ethics investigation and just make sure it didn't? Because then I can sleep at night. Because if it is happening, on top of him already being a convicted child trafficker, like, it's gross. And that is written in the article. So let's just check. And I never knew. Do you have to censure someone and then they get investigated, like, by the ethics committee, or how does it work? Apparently, it's the opposite. You don't have to. But again, not censuring her to let a guy who's allegedly beating up women and doing other horrific things get out of accountability is not the answer either.
High ground on the Epstein issue by defending her as you have.
Well, look, we've been demanding a complete release of the file, and now they wanted to discipline her, censure her, because she'd engaged in that text exchange with a convicted criminal. Of course, our Republican colleagues
know that none of the things I have brought up, like my investigation and none of that is part of what is written in the censure. Because it is my belief the reason it is not is because Republicans have accepted way more money and solicited way more money from him. So they don't want to be like, it's because she went and asked him for campaign donations, because they did it and did it worse. So they're trying to, you know what I'm saying? So everything he's saying is correct.
Engage in text exchanges all the time with Donald Trump, who has 34 felony criminal offenses to his name. So I don't know exactly what she's being charged with there. My point was simply she had not violated the Constitution, she had not violated federal law, and she had not violated, to my knowledge, any rule of the House of Representatives.
But are Democrats losing the moral high ground on the Epstein issue by defending?
I hope I have the clip I'm looking for. I hope I didn't put the same.
To be clear, that use the example of the president. Texting with the president of the United States is different than a pedophile, right? I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was more than just a constituent.
Well,
no, it can be one and the same. In this very unique case, I think multiple things can be true at once.
Hold on, let me just finish. He was a known
I like that she, because he was talking very fast in this interview. I like that she was like, let me just make my point. Because I've watched this woman, I don't even know her name. I watched her be bulldozed quite a bit and not push back on people. And Jamie Raskin is probably nice enough to let her finish. But I do like that she's like, hold on, like, I need to ask this question. And I'm glad she did, because it's a great question. And like, it needs to be asked. Stop trying to get people to not ask if any of this is unethical. Because if someone doesn't ask and I don't get answers, I'm not letting it go.
To be clear, that use the example of the president. Texting with the president of the United States is different than a pedophile, right? I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was more than just a constituent.
Well,
he was, hold on, let me just finish. He was a known sex offender. He was also a donor, right? He was a donor. And Stacey Plaskett, in her deposition in 2023, acknowledged she went to Epstein's New York home to solicit money for the Democratic Party in 2018. So I guess my question for you is, I know you have a relationship with her. You were an impeachment manager with her, right? But if this were a Republican in the same situation, would you still excuse it?
Well, in other words, are you saying, would I want to censure someone just because they had a phone call with a convicted felon and an adjudicated sex assailant? Because that's what Donald Trump is. Remember, he's got an adjudicated sexual assault charge in New York that he was convicted of, in addition to the 34 criminal felonies. So I'm not quite sure what your point is here. Should we be censuring anybody who's on a phone call with a felon?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, would you be defending a Republican who was in the same position, texting with Jeffrey Epstein?
I did.
Texting with Jeffrey Epstein after he was a known convicted sex offender, and just be calling it.
See how nice Jamie Raskin is, and how he's like, okay, like, and he still is like, okay, patient, like, let her talk. Like, Jamie Raskin is a nice guy who's very intelligent and like is super smart and already understands the answer, but is still letting her speak. I just want to point that out because I watch Republicans who are dumb as doornails, refuse to let thank you, Stacey, your name's Pamela Brown, ask a question because they don't want to answer it because then, and they're going to lie anyways. And I think it's cute that Jamie Raskin's like, okay, shut up, Jamie. But I get it because that's how I feel. Like, once I have the answer, I'm just like, want to bulldoze.
Constituent when in fact he was a donor and there was more there.
Well, I mean, we could take the example of the Republican serial liar and fraudster from New York. I'm spacing his name out right now. Who left Congress? Who was just
George
pardoned
Santos?
by?
Is that what you're talking about, George Santos?
George Santos.
Okay.
Yeah, I defended George Santos.
I was so annoyed. I remember this, and I was like, we have a chance to get rid of the Trump rot, like the second and third generation Trump rot, because Trump has put in little like idiotic grifters' heads like, oh, if the president of the United States can pathologically lie and steal and commit crimes, I can too. And he did defend George Santos, and he was right. And I was annoyed, but I respected him because I'm like, he's right. Like, he's absolutely correct. But if you remember, the reason they wouldn't hold George Santos robbed not Democratic donors, Republican donors. He stole their credit card information and was like, let me get these Gucci shoes. But Republicans would not hold him accountable because he was the literal, remember, they were clinging to one vote majority. So the reason George Santos could stay in Congress was because they're like, we have no one else. Like, this is our majority. Like, let this grifter stay. And Raskin was right. I remember this, and I was like, God damn it.
They wanted to expel him because they considered him inconvenient, but he had not had a criminal conviction, he'd not had a civil conviction, and he'd not gone through the ethics process. And that was my whole point with Stacey Plaskett. If you think she's violated a federal law or a rule of the House, charge her with it and let's take it through the ethics committee. But she hadn't been charged with anything. That was my simple point. And I know the Republicans are saying the Democrats defended Stacey Plaskett with respect to Jeffrey Epstein. We did not. We said we need to have a process here. She's not charged criminally. She's not charged civilly, and you haven't lodged any ethics complaint against her. And I said the exact same thing with George Santos. And you can go back and see that I voted no.
Now that I hear it this way, because I've never been clear on what a censure is, because with Republicans that just one day or we're just censuring someone, there's no punishment behind it, but we just are bored and Trump wants us to make an example of someone. So I never understood. So now that I understand you can start an ethics investigation outside of a censure, absolutely, that's fine. But again, my problem is, which is never discussed here, is the backdoor deal to say, we'll leave Corey Mills alone. We can never leave Corey Mills alone. This man is dangerous and someone is going to get hurt if he's not investigated and held. And he certainly shouldn't be in Congress, but he's the new George Santos. They have such a thin majority. And now margarine, which we're going to get to margarine melting next. But now with margarine, they're like, oh, you just unalive someone, to chop them up into pieces and throw them in trash bags and into the ocean. Oh, we're gonna have to keep you for a while. It's just weird.
Not to expel him because there was no process.
So just to be clear, you weren't defending her in that text exchange.
I'm sorry, I was not morally defending her. Like I said, Jeffrey Epstein never had my phone number. I would never give it to him. But that's not.
That was my point. Like, stop, because it's like with Hakeem Jeffrey sometimes, he's just like, is this okay? And I don't know. I showed you guys that interview last week where he's like, we're moving forward. Like, I'm not discussing this. I'm not discussing this. And Caitlin Collins kept being like, but is this ethical or moral for her to be actively soliciting campaign donations for someone who is convicted of child trafficking? And he's like, we're moving forward. It's like, just say, thank you, Jamie Raskin. I'm not morally or ethically defending anyone. And that's all I want to hear. Thank you. Now I feel okay. Like, now I understand. Okay, thank you.
The standard whether or not we censure someone and use the disciplinary process. And
to be clear that, Republicans and for Democrats, right? Jeffrey Epstein was a donor to both parties. Are Democrats having discussions about how to handle that if more members of your party are embroiled in anything having to do with Epstein?
I literally have not had one Democrat in the House or the Senate or, a former administrative official come to us and say, hey, you better slow down. That might embarrass one of our people. I mean, Larry Summers has had to resign from a whole bunch of boards and is apparently saying he's ashamed and disgraced by what's.
This is crazy. Like, this is why I'm not suggesting anyone be on X, but the guilty, very rich people complaining about the grossness, like, hey, you're gross, and now there might be consequences for you being gross.
Come out, well, then that was a decision that he made. And, we hold no brief for him. Nobody should be involved with $1 billion international.
And it just occurred to me, someone might not know. He's like hold on. He ran the United States Treasury. Hold on. I need to look up like an actual, let me just Wikipedia him. I know he went to Harvard because I watched him give a speech there once. Okay. Larry Henry Summers, born November 30th, 1954, is an American economist. He served as the 71st United States Secretary of Treasury from 1999 to 2001. Is that H.W. Bush? Is that Reagan? I don't know. Somebody tell me, because it's a little bit, I was like, no, 1999 to 2001. Wait, I don't know. Someone, whatever. Who cares? I mean, it's not that important. I just can't think. 99 was Clinton. Okay, yeah, because I think. Okay, there we go. So, see, thank you. This is what I must have seen. He also was the 27th president of Harvard University. Okay, because I was like, I know I've seen this guy speaking behind a pulpit at Harvard. Okay, I had no idea about that. He was the 8th director. Oh shit. He was the 8th director of the National Economic Council. Okay, so this man is currently at Harvard Kennedy School. He is the Charles W. Eliot University professor. He is on leave from his teaching responsibilities and from his role as director of the Mosavar Rahami Center for Business and Government as of November 19th, 2025. So 5 days ago. Summers became a professor. Okay. Well, I mean, so again, this guy is all up, and if you don't know, again, it's Summers spelled like summer normally, not with an O. It's Summers. Larry Summers, look it up. And he's like, my life is being ruined. It's like, no, you're a creep. You're the new, what's the guy who was ran the Harvard Law Review for a while? What is the guy's name? He's like, I went to the island and I got a massage, but I kept my pants on. Or what's that guy's name? And the irony being, that guy was Dershowitz. Thank you. Alan Dershowitz. Yes. Alan Dershowitz was a Democrat, and then he's a perfect example of when it turns out you're a creeper, you just shift on over to the right where they're like, it's okay, Alan, like, we pretend over here that we care about child trafficking, but actually we harbor the people most guilty of it, starting with evangelical pastors, the Catholic Church, and the like. You know what I mean? Like, that's Alan Dershowitz is now all the time on Fox, all the time on Newsmax, because he had to move right where it's okay to be diddling kids and not be held accountable. And Larry, there's a place for you on Newsmax. I'm telling you, right after, what's that guy, Sean Spicer's show? We could fit you in for 30 minutes. You can be right over there. It's going to be fine, Larry. There's a whole MAGA cottage industry where they pretend to want to protect women and children from SA and trafficking, and then they, employ and glorify all the men who do it. Larry, think about it this way. You could be the Republican president of the United States one day. The possibilities are endless. Over on the right, though. You're not going to be able to stay over here. Fare thee well.
We hold no brief for him. Nobody should be involved with $1 billion international global child sex trafficking ring. If you listen to the survivors on your show, for example, people will know that the people involved in that were guilty of some very gruesome actions. And so to the extent that people are involved in it, they're going to have to own up to it. And if there are continuing crimes that have gone on or other crimes that weren't prosecuted, that should be part of this process. But remember, it was the Trump Department of Justice that summoned all the materials, took the case away from Maureen Comey in New York, and then they killed the investigation in February. They said there's nothing left to see here, and it's only because we've demanded the release of the files that it's possible that there will be more justice done when, discoveries are made about whether there was abuse and rape that took place and trafficking of other individuals. But remember, the Trump Justice Department tried to kill it.
Republicans and for Democrats.
Oh my God. I was just reading that. I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to know about people. Because once you learn about all these old, very rich people, you just start hating them. I'm sorry. I just caught one paragraph that said he was instrumental in the Glass-Steagall deregulation. Okay. Okay. Larry Summers appears to be instrumental in the original forming of the concentration of wealth at the top of the economy and in the current oligarchy that is now operating. So again, maybe I'll do some more he sounds, I want to say fascinating, but I don't know if it's fascinating when you're a creep. Gross. Yeah, Larry Summers. Oh, and he's tanorexic. I pray for him that's a spray tan, but that is the most unnatural shade of spray tan I've ever seen. But if it's not a spray tan, it's possibly melanoma will be taking him soon. Okay, and here's the last one, because I just thought this was a very interesting interview that made me feel better, because I'm like, okay, cool. So we can, but in my opinion, Stacey Plaskett, there should absolutely be an ethics investigation into all of that, period. Because that way we'll just know, okay, so this isn't a straw man illegal donor campaign. That 30 grand you tried to donate, and your creepy interactions where you're like, do you like what I'm wearing? And your weird history I named in the timeline, there's not more to that because you were named in a lawsuit by 6 Epstein survivors. So let's listen to the survivors and just make sure, if you are dumb enough to think it's cool to go to a convicted billionaire child trafficker and buddy up to him and ask for money after he's been convicted and admitted to it, then you might have to go through an ethics investigation. And you should be investigate me. I would sign myself up for one if I was innocent, I'd be like, just look into it. Like, I have disgusting, poor, gross judgment, but that's the extent of it. If she would just say that, I could go to sleep at night and be like, okay, cool. Like, thank you. And we will, what is that thing Reagan always used to say, which is ironic coming from Republicans because they're all liars? Trust but verify. Great. Thank you, Stacey. Trust but verify. The defiance, the like, how dare you ask me about this is mind-boggling to me. I'm sorry. Like, how dare I ask you why you befriended a billionaire child trafficker who was actively bribing everybody and paying for their political campaigns so he could continue his trafficking in the Virgin Islands. And literally the man you ran against gave a speech on the Senate floor about him actively trafficking. That is what bothers me. In 2013, or when she was first ran for Congress, like when the campaign was going on, the guy she was up against, no one ever thought she could win. People were like this. I don't know if he was the president of the Senate in the Virgin Islands. I think he might have been. And he was on the Senate floor being like, we've got to eject this creepy child diddler trafficker out of here because he's still going. And there is an email where the creepy, horrible first lady, if anyone needs to be rounded up and collected and given a talk to, it's Cecile de Jong. She was the first lady of the governor of the Virgin Islands, which is like, I think, the president for like 5 years. And she was like the person who's actively like, here's the person we need to bribe. Here's the person we need to support. And there's an email between her and Epstein saying, okay, and I can't remember his name, but I'm pretty sure he was the president of the Senate of the Virgin Islands. He was on the House floor like, we've got a creepy billionaire actively hurting kids and we need to do something about it. And she sends Epstein an email and is like, and I showed you guys this email, it's in the lawsuit, you can find it, and says, hey, this guy is going to be a problem for you. He's on the Senate floor once a week pointing out that you're actively a creep. I mean, she doesn't say it in exactly those words, but she's like, we've got to get rid of him. And you will have, and I'm quoting now, a friend in Stacey. So, and trust me, I understand how business works. I understand when I'm trying, like when I used to broker millions, you know, they used to call me the Rainmaker. I used to bring the Fortune 500 advertising dollars to pay for the very expensive engineers pre-IPO at the social media company I worked for. So I understand, like, sometimes the way I spoke internally to my bosses was not the way I was speaking to like Walmart when I was trying to get money from them, you know. So I don't know if that's something she said, but I think we should check. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we should check. She said it. So again, none of this is a crime, but ethically, yeah, let's just figure out what was what. Like when you said friend, what the fuck did that mean? I think we should, for the children whose lives will never be the same, let's check. Hey, Brooke. Sorry. Okay, so this is the last clip, which again, thank you, Jamie, for making me feel slightly better.
Just to follow up, even if no one in the Democratic Party is implicated in being part of Epstein's ring, if there are more communications that come out, right? I mean, are there any discussions about how to handle that? Because we've already seen the fallout from that with other Democrats and Epstein.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what to say about it. It's a sign of the times here that everything is viewed through such a partisan lens. I mean, if there are people involved with a child sex abuse trafficker, if they committed crimes, then they should be investigated and prosecuted with all the protections of due process. And if they were just involved in some kind of social relationship or whatever, people can figure that out. I mean, that was the whole point about Stacey Plaskett. You know, for some reason, he had Stacey's phone number. They'd been in communication. And so she takes the hit for that publicly, that they communicated, but nobody's accusing her of having committed a crime. And nobody's accusing her of violating a rule of ethics. It's not against our ethics rules for people to get texts in Congress. So the whole point of the rule of law is that we can make these kinds of distinctions, and they shouldn't be difficult to make. There's a difference between, flying to Jeffrey Epstein's island and engaging in sexual abuse of minors, and then somebody getting, a phone call or a text.
Right. And as you know, Congressman, you've been in Washington a long time. There's the legal aspect, right? And then there's the politics of it, right? And those are...
No, I don't think I clipped it, or I did and I left it out, but I watched this whole interview, and at some point he does, Raskin does say, you never catch me giving my phone number to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not nuts. Hold on. I think I might have, let me just check outside my presentation, because when I'm making these, sometimes, it's just so many things happening, and I don't add all the clips. There might be a clip, because I know for a fact, I was thank God you just admitted that. They very obviously, in my opinion, from my research, had a personal friendship going on, where they were personally communicating. And that's hey, you got to ask yourself, is that a crime? Absolutely not. Had he paid his debt to society? Yeah, because he was a billionaire. His debt to society was basically, when I don't even want to call it a sweetheart deal. What did he have to do? Didn't he get to go anywhere he wanted during the day, and then he went to a minimum security prison at night for a year? Did he say that earlier? Thank you, Local 386. I just want to make sure Jamie Raskin said that, and I didn't miss it, because I think that's important. It is okay to feel that is a huge, in my opinion, icky, gross lapse in judgment. Absolutely, it's not a crime, but it is an icky lapse in judgment. And sorry, once you show hey, I clearly, and I cannot say this enough, because Stacey Plaskett represents a depressed economy, a third world, region where people have nothing. In my opinion, because I have been SA'd as a child, your responsibility to protect those poor children is 10,000 times as important at that point, because there's no infrastructure. People are looking just for their next meal, and they're much more vulnerable. So for you, and let me just say it again, we are talking about a lawyer, a United States attorney, a DOJ attorney, beholden to the ethics of the bar, making, in my opinion, joining a group of people whose campaigns were being funded, it's most people in the Virgin Islands, by Jeffrey Epstein, after he's a convicted child trafficker. And so, yeah, you are setting up a situation for a predator to move children through customs, as is evidenced by, I'm not going to do it again, but when I start talking about this, I get upset. So for her to be what's everyone's problems? It isn't a crime. I agree with Jeffrey Epstein. Why do I keep trying to call Jamie Raskin Jeffrey Epstein? Gross. But I agree with Jamie Raskin. It's icky. It's weird. And I do think it should be looked into. And I think the Republicans will do it, because while they try to distract from Trump, I do think if there's anything untoward besides what we know now about Stacey Plaskett, we'll find out soon, because their whole goal is to try to pin something on someone other than all the very, very huge donors for the Republican Party and for Trump, who are about to have their lives upended. So yeah, if there's a way to distract from any of that, then I think they will do it, which helped. That's what I keep telling myself. Because again, I don't want anyone to get in trouble for anything they haven't done, but I also, these people were children, and we are now, almost 20 years later, and for some of them, much more than that. This has been going on. I just want everyone to know, too, I still am icked out by like what I think Chuck Schumer in 1991 took money from Epstein. He was a known child sex trafficker then. I mean, especially in like the circles of the rich. So I don't condone any of it, but at least at least there wasn't public court documents at the point that anybody could read. So I just want to be clear. I do not condone any of this weird shit. Let's lighten the mood a little bit. Well, actually, let's do, I don't know if it's so sad what I consider lightening the mood, but I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I want to call your attention to it because I've always known it, like just as someone who hails from the tech industry and, used to date the engineers at our company because I just loved their weird brains. Like, I mean, I knew this about X, but I don't know. I just because again, don't go there. Don't go on X. So I just want to make sure you guys know what's going on. And you might have heard, if you follow Midas Touch, and like this is being reported on. And Midas Touch has reported, and I've kind of talked about all the bots, like all of the fake accounts on X, like it is insane. And if you asked me, like, how many X accounts do I believe are actual people inside the United States? Yeah, I think probably 20%. Like, literally, that is my belief. Like, and I'm talking about on X, how many accounts are genuinely people inside the United States? I think it's actually quite a small amount because that's just a math deduction, like how big is actual MAGA? I think, look at what's happened since the independents left Trump. It's like 67% of the country wants this guy gone. So like 32 to 33% is still there. And I'm not saying that, like, I think the entire Republican Party would still vote for Trump. The independents are gone. And that is then 67% of the country is like, get the F out of here. But there was a great talk about Harry. And actually, let me show this before I show you guys this, because it might help. But this is going to look like, oh, this makes me want to unalive. But just understand, like, what you're going to hear, you guys know how I like Harry Enton and the way he analyzes statistics to tell stories. It's good, but it sounds it's going to make you be like, I'm giving up on everything. So, fair warning. But again, this is only the Republican Party, right? So, independents have left Trump, right? And then you've got to think about the libertarians who are the far right flank, who's like Trump. I mean, they can't stand him. So this is true Republicans, not people who are registered as libertarians. So it's a tiny, I had to guess, I'd say it's 27 to 30% of America. And that is generous, right? Who are the actual crazies, like, who will unalive with David Koresh, like when the FBI comes to like bulldoze the cults. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And this is a mathematical analysis of those weirdos. So just understand that, because it can look like, oh my God, that's a lot. This is just the core group of weirdos, of which we've already separated off and have the majority of the votes. If Trump does not do something to the voting machines.
So is the president losing Republicans?
Just to say, this is also a great lead into talking about margarine melting and resigning, because he also talks about that. This is a great way to see mathematically why she might understand there's no hope.
No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. I mean, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87.
Look, I know Republicans are like, yeah, look at us, holding strong. No, this is cognitive dissonance and idiocy. You are saying, as more information comes out, as I continue to be robbed, grifted, and stolen from, I do not. And again, that's why I preface this, Donna, don't lose hope. You have to understand, this is the cult. This is the 27 to, let's say, what did I say? 27 to probably 32%. It can't be 33. I just don't think, because I have to account for the libertarians. So let's say max 27 to 32% of the voting electorate, even. Like, I don't even, like, just understand this. That's who we're talking about. We're talking about as everyone like escapes through the woods before it's time to drink the Kool-Aid. We are talking about the people left. And also, let's say of the people left, it might not even be Trump supporters, because like I'm going to show you this as we talk about Marjorine's resignation. It's not that there is a terrifying, it's scary on X right now, because like people hate Trump, but are they still racist bigots who hate gays? You know what I mean? Want to use the Bible to execute trans people? Yeah, like they're still there, so they might all still vote as a block. That's what I want you to understand. So I'm going to show you guys more about the schism inside, but this is like the people who are still happen to be there when it's time to drink the Kool-Aid at Jonestown.
He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago. As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock, the Republican base.
We all give Donna some love. Hold on. Donna, I'm just not seeing you in the comments. And Donna just said, my patient daughter told me Trump is the only trustworthy politician. Both of my parents actively, like my dad is a diabetic I'm taking care of who's like on unaliving's door and like is like, I love Trump but can't afford his insulin. Do you know what you know what I'm saying? So like, Donna, you've come to the right place. It is okay. Like, if your daughter's stuck in there in the 20s, let's all support Donna. Donna needs a hug. Let's follow Donna. It's okay, Donna. You have found your people. We are all trapped with family members who. And let me just say, because you might hear me say like MAGA idiots, generally I'm talking about the white males, right? Like, and then there are people in cognitive dissonance, meaning literally like, I've talked about this. And let me just make a suggestion. If someone could like friend Donna and send her a message with, and you guys always correct me on her name, but Knitting Cult Lady. This is an amazing woman who will change your life. Like, she's like a captain in the U.S. Army, has wrote several books, and she's an expert on high control groups and talks a lot about MAGA. So just understand, like, you just have to be there and support your daughter. And like, whenever there are those moments where there's a break in the cognitive dissonance and she might see the light, like, just support her and be there when you need. But there's not necessarily anything you can do. It's not anything you have done. Like, don't blame yourself. So yeah, if someone could just give Donna that resource and just know this is come back to the people's receipts. Like, most people are very intelligent people whose family members just happen to be in cognitive dissonance. Like, I have a very high IQ, which actually I don't value IQ as a test of intelligence at all. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't matter. And that's one of my biggest lessons from Knitting Cult Lady. And actually, if you remember, because when I start talking about Marjorie, does anyone remember QAnon? Do you guys remember when you couldn't say those words or your live would be taken down? And you never hear any of these people. QAnon was not like weird, dumb people. There were billionaires, there were millionaires, there were business people, there were all sorts of people. Like, that's one thing that I definitely recommend listening to Knitting Cult Lady talk about cognitive dissonance in high control groups. It is not what you think, right? Like, anybody can be sucked into that, and it's fascinating to listen to. And the interesting part is knowing once someone is inside a high control group in cognitive dissonance, there are neurological studies, real ones, not MAGA people saying that vaccinations are going to unalive, the jab is going to unalive you. Not that. Real scientific studies that show that, like, as a survival mechanism, once you're in cognitive dissonance, you will literally, your brain will turn off and not allow you to take in new information from outside sources, because it is contrary to your ability to survive and continue believing the beliefs that will keep you thriving in your cult/high control group. So just do not blame yourself, Donna. It is nothing you have done. It can happen to anyone, and thank God you found the right place. And anyone not following me, follow you. I do the people's receipts as much as I can while taking care of my Trump-loving father, who is very ill.
Is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
It really is interesting to watch his overall approval rating go down, 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 but see this be completely constant here.
It is among independents. It is not among Republicans.
Okay, so how does this compare to past presidents in a second term?
Yeah, okay, I think this gives the game away, right? Which is Donald Trump, if you look at 21st century presidents' own party approval at this point in term 2, who leads the pack? It's Donald John Trump. 87% of Republicans approve of Donald John Trump. You go back to 2013, 78% of Democrats supported Barack Obama, and it was 78% of Republicans who supported George W. Bush back in 2005 at this point. So Donald Trump has the biggest highest own party approval of.
I want you to understand, this is Jonestown. If you don't know what Jonestown is, please go look up. There's several free documentaries on it. If you don't know who Jim Jones is and how that all ended in Guyana, a place Trump is now going to go to war with Venezuela to try to steal the oil out from underneath, just look into it, because this is for real, right? And when he's talking about the 87%, yeah, I'm not at all surprised. If you remember, they barely even liked George W. I don't even feel like Republicans liked him. It was like they liked his father, and they're like, this guy seems to be an illiterate idiot, but okay, like Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney are running the country, so we forgive him for being an idiot. Like, and still, think about it. At this point, they had 78%, and this was during, Iraq. What was it? Hurricane Katrina, where he was like talking at an elementary school and just froze and couldn't leave. Or was that the Twin Towers? Is that when the planes flew into the Twin Towers? He was like at an elementary school and couldn't move, and was like frozen in fear and just couldn't speak. And still. Yeah, it was the towers. Thank you. See, I never have to know for sure what I could just mutter things, and then you guys will just. That's the beauty of being smart enough to attract such a high intelligence audience. I literally could just be like, I'm going to mutter things, and then you guys correct me, and that's how we'll figure out the truth. So remember, and even then, at this point in his term, he had 78% approval. Again, just from the core Republicans who are like, we got to get rid of the brown. In my opinion, we are talking about the core white nationalist, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And be straight. No gays allowed, right? Except for in Congress and the government, except for, in all sorts of elected positions, you can be a homosexual and then vote against everything you are and then pretend not to be. That's fine. And if you're feeling like Felice is talking about things she doesn't know about, during the last Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Grindr went down. The servers failed in Milwaukee because so many Republicans were trying to. If you don't know what Grindr is, you should check it out personally. So yeah, and if you don't believe me, there are documented secondary source news articles on this. One of my favorite reporters on that incident is George Santos. So yeah, his coverage was. He was on Grindr, holding up people's, accounts. So look it up. It was some of the best reporting I've ever seen.
any president who served their entire second term in the 21st century.
You could look at this one of two ways. You could say, obviously, he's doing way better than past presidents. Or you could say, there is still room to settle. If there is a reversion to the mean here, if that does fall further, that could chip into his overall approval rating. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene, resigning from Congress in January. One of the concerns is that Donald Trump backed someone in a primary against her. How has Donald Trump done in his congressional endorsements?
You know, when you go up against Donald Trump, you're going up against a buzzsaw, because